What was your biggest, oh hell no, moment where you saw a situation as very creepy or scary? Part 2. Please like and subscribe to support this channel. One day my ex-boyfriend walked up to me on my way to class, got in my face and yelled at me for lying to people about how much of an abusive and psychotic twat he was. He yelled at me, wouldn't let me leave and followed me to class and screamed when I didn't answer him. I had a huge panic attack a couple minutes into class because the whole incident scared the hell out of me. So I grabbed the pass to go to the bathroom in the cafeteria. And on my way there, I noticed someone is in the outdoor corridor above the cafeteria, staring at me with a look of hate and anger on his face. It was my ex. I saw him, literally yelled, "Oh fuck no," ran into the cafeteria and asked my friend to walk me back to class. My ex was still there when we walked back to class, but he was gone after I got dropped off. Hell nah, man. I don't fuck with that. I was walking with a friend to her house. We had stayed up all night and decided it was a great idea to walk to the convenience store. I think we were about 15. Anyway, we got so tired walking back, and I said, "I dare you to stick your thumb out and catch us a ride." I didn't think she would do it. Also, we were living on Cape Cod, in a very safe, quiet town. So she does, and someone pulls over. We looked at each other like, should we do it? We stupidly got in. 10 seconds into the ride, the guy asks us if we want to have sex for money. I didn't say a word, and jumped out of the moving car. We weren't going too fast, maybe 25 miles per hour. I didn't even think, I just did it. As I'm laying on the ground thinking how much that fucking hurt and getting a look at the car and license plate number so that I can report it to the police, he pulls over and lets my friend out. I think it was the summer of '96 and I was visiting family in Pakistan. We were chilling on the deck when the sun started to go down and PPL were hollering for their kids to come back in from the street. My cousins didn't really live in the best of areas, so it made sense. But it interrupted all the fun they were having. There isn't a whole lot of room for them to run around since each house is separated by a large wall that doesn't leave much space for a yard. So anyways, I asked my cousins why all the kids were coming in and he says, because Ganook Babu comes out at this time. I thought he was playing at some fairy tale to scare kids into listening to their parents, but sure enough this disheveled 30-something-year-old man who clearly had mental problems walks around the corner and just wants to fight or wrestle with whoever he sees. The random men and teens in the street kinda egged him on and would take it as a joke, but the kids would obviously get hurt if he caught one of them. There isn't much awareness for those with mental disabilities in that part of the country, so while at the time I found it creepy, as I got older I found it extremely sad. I've posted this before, but I think it fits. I was about 17 years old and going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. This was back in the mid-90s. I drove myself to a morning meeting at a community center that I'd been to many times. There was an older couple I've never seen before there. After the meeting, the guy started flirting with me. I tried to brush him off. I had a boyfriend, yada yada yada. He finally comes out and asks if I'll go have sex with him. His wife is okay with it, because she's got some sort of physical issue. I don't remember what it was, but I think she walked with a cane. They both were following me around as I helped clean up. At some point, the alarm bells went off in my head. These are serial killers, GTFO. I just broke and ran out to my car to leave. They were left standing in the doorway, watching me leave. I have no idea who they were, if they were serial killers, or if they were telling the truth. Also, never saw them again. Navajo skinwalker story, my grandfather. When he was young, was running home, from a friend's home. Yes, he was running because no cars or a horse. On the way back he was close to a windmill and wanted to get a drink. Well, as soon as he got close he saw a single sheep by itself. He did not think much of it. As he got closer the sheep stood on 2 legs and it was bigger and saw a person underneath the sheepskin. My grandfather noped out of there and it was the fastest he ever ran. He tells me he was being followed. Here's sheep boss as he ran. Used to work for a moving company and we arrived at customer's house because we're doing some food relief. Anywho, we get to their door and right above their address plate on the side of the door is a cut-off doll head just hanging there. No the fuck, it was not Halloween and there were no other decorations either. The customers open the door to greet us and as we're standing on the front step talking to them, my coworkers and I notice another cut-off doll head hanging. This time above the entranceway to a hallway directly behind the customers. Now we're like, oh hell no, WTF is about to happen here. I think they noticed we were on edge, so they told us they ran a theater company and design a lot of sets and props at home. So we finished the job and nope the fuck out of there. When I went on a first date with this guy, we decided to walk around Central Park at night. The park is big and some areas are lowly lit and somewhat deserted. One area we passed was where they have paddle boats. The lake was between two areas, but there was a way across via a path. The further one was covered with brush, bushes or something that created a seclusive feeling. He insisted that we go and check out the other area and that it was cool. I did not feel safe and said, no. In a way that knew I felt creeped out by it. He said, don't worry, I won't hurt you. Yet. I walked away quickly saying we have to go and then took a taxi home. My best friend came over that night. I didn't want to be by myself after that. Walk into an abandoned mine shaft at night with a group of friends. The shaft isn't really known for being haunted, but some people say that they've heard dinging from inside like it was still being mined, despite being closed off after about 100 feet and abandoned since the 30s. We walked to the back, where it was closed off, and what do you know, our only flashlight runs out of battery. We start walking back to the front as best we can, holding on to the person in front of us and going as fast as we could with the uneven floor and numerous puddles. About 1/3 of the way out, there comes a dinging noise from the back of the mine where we just were, faint at first, but we all heard it. We started going quicker and freaking out a bit after that. Finally we were about 3/4 through and in a place where the ceiling was relatively high, yet something knocked my hard hat off. It wasn't a low beam because I was the shortest and everyone else was upright walking at that spot. I grabbed it quickly and we noped the hell out of there. Haven't been back since, for good reason. It's 2 a.m. and my cousin and I are returning home from a night out with friends. It's a weekday and roads are empty, so we're bumping tunes to keep us company. We pull up to a red light and are suddenly greeted by the sound of a loud thud and screeching tires in the distance. A compact car and a minibus, both traveling in the same direction, collided. Think pit maneuver. The compact car then smashes into a wall and the minibus becomes airborne and starts rolling toward the intersection where our car is stopped. As we watch in complete awe, in what feels like slow motion, I immediately tell my cousin to drive. He pulls off and we get a safe distance from the scene and call 911. We return to the scene of what turned out to be a fatal accident. One individual was ejected from the minibus and didn't survive, to find the minibus stopped in the asterisk exact spot that our car was at just seconds before. My friend and I were on a road trip. It was late, about midnight, and we stopped at a convenience store for gas. We went in the store to pay and I'm looking around and I can't help but notice that everyone in the store is disfigured in some way. One guy is missing an arm, one guy is wearing an eye patch, etc. I'm looking sideways at my friend, saying, come on, let's get going. We went out, got in the car, she started it up and the clutch had inexplicably gone out of it. All of the disfigured people had wandered out and were standing around watching us try to get going. Looks like you're gonna have to stay here. You're not going anywhere tonight, your clutch is gone. We were frantic by that point. My friend kept trying to get the car to go and failing, she was starting to panic. I was saying urgently, let me drive, I can drive it. Let me drive. She was getting increasingly hysterical, the disfigured people were drawing closer. I'm insisting, let me drive. Finally, she gave up, we swapped seats, I put into second gear, started it up and lurched out of the lot. I drove us all the way home, 544 miles, without a clutch. We eased through Lincoln, Nebraska about 1 a.m., which made our clutchless condition much easier to deal with. No traffic. The key to driving without a clutch is to never stop, unless you absolutely have to. If you have to come to a complete stop, for a traffic light for example, the engine will die. Closing parenthesis. I have quite a few haunting stories, but my best is once I was at my dinner table having lunch. My dog was a few feet away chilling, and randomly a painting flew off the wall at him. No earthquake. Nothing else moved. But goddamn, I've never seen him run up the stairs so fast. Another time I found a random old book of Hans Christian Andersen stories neatly destroyed in my library. Like, neatly destroyed, just ripped apart and left on the floor, and is something my dog or cat could ever do or has done. Neither I or my husband owned it. Still creeps me out. And have no idea where it came from. After a night of drinking with the bar closing, I get invited back to an apartment owned by a friend of a friend to smoke some bud and drink a few more beers. I've heard about this guy before and heard he was a little wild, but thought nothing of it. He was kind of notorious for chopping a guy's hand off with a machete when he broke into his house to rob him. I stepped foot into this apartment and there is spray paint everywhere. Like he had graffiti all over the place, which is different, but I wasn't super weirded out yet. Next thing you know, we're out of beer and my two friends who I came along with decide to go on a beer run and I volunteered to stay with Machete Man. The second they leave he starts pulling all kinds of guns and knives out to show me. I act interested and sort of am, but he starts getting weird, like almost in a threatening way. Then he goes on to tell me he is a Juggalo and starts explaining the Juggalo culture. In my head I am thinking, WTF did I get myself into? Nothing good happens after the bar closes. Why am I here? He keeps insisting I must see his basement and all the amazing graffiti down there. I keep changing the subject because there is no way I am going into this lunatic's basement. I go out to smoke a cigarette to get away from him and he follows me out. There's a fucking washing machine on his front lawn and he spray paints a face on it while I'm smoking my cigarette. We go back in and thankfully my friends return from getting beer and he goes from being weird to back to whatever normal is for this guy. I had never been more uncomfortable hanging out with someone before. I ran into him at a bar a few weeks later and him and his friends were trying to jump someone I knew. I was actually able to stop it from happening because he thinks of me as a friend, so at least something good came from that night. I saw an ad on Craigslist where a man was offering a very good amount of cash and lots of shopping to one lucky girl. All she had to do was go with him to a mall of his choice. Then in the clothes section they would fuck in one of those changing rooms. Not sure what they are called. His final sentence was, P.S. I only fuck without condoms, so be a trusting person. Yap, that was sign for trouble. My family used to live in this house that had a really creepy hallway on the second floor. It was a little narrow, and sometimes you could hear footsteps as if someone were walking through it. One day when I was 11-ish I was playing PS2 on the first floor just under that hallway. I was home alone and started hearing the footsteps. It was creepy, but I was used to hearing them, so I just kept playing. Then it happened again, which was odd as it usually only happened once. Whatever, I kept playing. Then it happened a third time, so I paused the game and got up, super creeped out. I stood there a second thinking of what to do when it happened again, except this time it sounded like someone was running down the hallway. I booked it outside and ran onto our dock as it was the only place in the open where neighbors could see me. I called my mom and stood there for 25 minutes until she got home. Screw that house, it was super creepy and my family has a lot of weird stories that happened there. This happened 13 to 14 years ago. I am a 16-year male, waiting for the bus for my end-of-semester business management exam at 10 a.m. An old man, probably in his 60s, driving in a battered blue Toyota Corolla rocked up to the bus stop and I was the only one waiting for the bus. He asked me where I'm heading and I say my school. He said, hop in, I'm going past there and I'll drop you off. I replied back to him, my bus is coming in a couple of minutes but thank you anyway. He kept insisting that I should hop in his car and I was feeling uncomfortable at this point. Luckily a driver saw the situation and drove to the bus stop honking their horn at the old geezer and he quickly drove off. I thanked the driver. That old man was either a pedophile or was just a lonely old man that just wanted someone to talk to in his car. Until that day, I never saw him again. It was a Saturday night and The Two Towers was about to air for the first time on HBO. I was sitting down waiting for it to start with my sister when I hear a helicopter. I think nothing about it until it starts to get louder and louder and louder. Finally, my sister and I step out our front door and about only 20 feet above us is a police helicopter. It was so surreal and awesome. For about 20 seconds when I see the spotlight aiming right towards the giant forest we live next to. I come to the realization that they are probably looking for somebody and I quickly push my sister back into our house. Throughout the first hour of the movie, I just hear the helicopter circling our entire area. I did later find out that someone had escaped custody and they were looking for them in our area. Just looking at this helicopter so close and then the sudden thought of somebody rushing out of the forest towards us is something I'll never forget. Truly terrifying in the moment. I had just landed in Vegas with two other girls, one being 16 at the time. We were getting on the shuttle that would take us from our gate to security where we would walk to parking. A guy walked onto the shuttle with us and immediately started talking to the 16-year-old, asking her where she's from, where she's going, just weirdly personal questions. That's when I noticed he wasn't carrying any luggage. He had no bags or anything, nothing that would suggest he had gotten off of a flight. He was in his early to mid-20s and had on name brand clothes and a fancy ass watch. I really started getting the creeps from him and steered the conversation so that he was mostly stuck talking to me instead of the 16-yo. When the shuttle ride was coming to an end, I didn't want this guy following us to the parking garage, so I asked the older girl with us if she knew where baggage was. She looked at me confused, but before she could answer, creepy dude said he was going to baggage too and that he could show us. When we all got off, he stayed behind us and started giving us instructions. I told him that I only asked in case he didn't know and that we weren't going that way. He looked pissed and watched us walk in the opposite direction of baggage claim. When he was no longer in our sights, I told the girls that he was giving me the creeps and to hurry to the rental car. When we were driving off, we saw him getting off the elevator, still without baggage. Looking back, I'm pretty sure he was a sex trafficker. It was winter break and I went on vacation to visit my friends back home. My friend from the military was on leave and he was meeting his girlfriend's family for the day. I was staying with him, and since he was going to be gone all day, I wanted to go on a long 15 to 20 mile walk for the day. I enjoyed the walk until about mile 17, where I stumbled myself into a bad part of the city. I wasn't uncomfortable because I have done this plenty of times, and if you mind your own business, people leave you alone. I see ahead the light that I need to cross to get where I need to. There was some shady looking groups of people at the corner looking gang affiliated. I tensed up a little because I had a lot of stuff on me with my backpack that might entice someone to jump me for my stuff. I told myself to calm down, you're overreacting, keep your eyes forward and it'll be fine. As I get closer, I see these two taller, rough-looking guys start walking in my direction. As they get closer, each of them split on the sidewalk with a gap in the middle. Immediately I'm thinking, fuck, they're splitting up to jump me from both sides. The dude on the right pauses by a trash can and then a bike comes flying out of nowhere from behind me, and I realized they were making room for the biker. I told myself to relax, you're overreacting, but then the guy starts walking again, and as soon as he does, he pulls a huge metal pipe that was tucked away in his pants. I immediately thought, this is it, I'm about to get bashed over the head with a metal pipe. I started getting myself hyped up in my head, ready to defend myself as they approached. I kept my eyes forward as both came from each side. As I got in the middle of both of them, I closed my eyes waiting for this, but luckily never came. Scariest moment of my life. I felt 100% sure they were going to fuck my world up. One night, early morning, 4 a.m., I took a friend home after we hung out through the night. Previous to this, I was reading a few scary stories and skinwalkers and shit online, and when I drove back down her street to go home, a dog comes bounding down the road into view of the one street lamp at a small intersection. I see it out of the corner of my eye, and my tired brain sees this big gray good boy as a humanoid crawling insanely fast on all fours. I jumped and hit my head on the roof of the car, and nearly veered into a tree before I realized it was just a lone doggo. I took a minute to calm down and drove home. Once went to check out an abandoned psych hospital by myself. With a friend, it's not scary at all. It's amazing to see the place in disrepair with so much history simply left in to rot. Patient beds, records, clothing, decorations, old medical equipment, everything was just left and abandoned. But alone, it's definitely a test of your balls. I made my way up about 3/4 of a mile through the woods to an opening where I was standing maybe 50 yards away from one of the old satellite buildings on the outskirts of the 700-acre campus. I was in the middle of taking a wide panoramic picture with my phone when I heard a noise like an explosion come from the building in front of me. I honestly thought that someone blew something up or fired a gun, until I looked in the general vicinity of the noise. Inside one of the rooms, through the broken glass window, I witnessed the culprit for the noise I had heard and that I had just seen it open itself again. In the building that was opposite from where I was standing, one of the very large doors that led from the hallway into a patient room suddenly thrust itself back open, as if someone had took their hand and given it a rather forceful push. I knew instantly that the slamming door caused the noise I heard. Of course, when the door had reached the extent of its open swing, there was nothing but the peeling wall paint behind the door. Now, I'm not a believer in ghosts, but seeing that with my own eyes, alone, in the middle of a sprawling 700-acre abandoned psychiatric complex. Man. It was absolutely surreal. I've never felt such a sensation to get out of a place before. I've never felt such a feeling of needing to leave. My own mind, of course, but nonetheless the sensation was enough to make me drop my jaw, heart pounding, and turn and run. That was the closest I've ever been to questioning my beliefs. I stood in utter disbelief for a solid 5 seconds there outside that building before I decided I wasn't having any of that today. I don't think I've ever ran a mile, back to my car, so quickly in my life. What's worse is I could hear the same door slamming shut again in the distance as I ran. It scared the fuck out of me, tbh. Even though I don't believe in ghosts and am 100% that a gust of wind caused what I saw. Lol man, that was enough to make a grown man shit his pants. I ran through some thorn bushes on the way back to my car and didn't even feel any pain until I looked down and saw that my shins were shredded and bleeding. I've never had such an adrenaline rush. Safe to say I thought to myself, oh hell fucking nah dude. When I was a freshman in college, I was hanging out with my friend and his girlfriend. His girlfriend gets a call that her mom is coming to visit her on campus. She then invites us to meet her there as well. No, thanks. I'll just chill with someone else. Not trying to meet someone's mom for no reason. My friend gets a long guilt trip before agreeing to meet her. Somehow, he talks me into coming too. So, we go to the meetup spot, parking lot behind her dorm. Her mom is taking forever to get there. Turns out she got lost and the girlfriend leaves to meet her at the entrance to the lot. We wait inside by the window overlooking the lot, talking about random stuff. Then we catch a glimpse of his girlfriend and his mom walking towards the dorm. My friend just freezes mid-sentence. Is it just me or does her mom look mean as fuck, dude? I turn to get a better look. I'm not really one for judging someone, but in this moment, I inexplicably felt the urge to run away. She looked like the evil stepmother mixed with a goblin. Legit looked like a fairy tale witch dressed in people clothes. She looks mean as hell. I answer, fuck this. My friend turns to run. WTF. He just starts sprinting away down the hall and laughing. The evil stepmom and her minion are getting closer to the door. They are gonna see me. Oh hell no, like fuck am I gonna try and explain this shit. Lizard brain kicks in and I sprint after him down the hall. When I catch up to him and we are in the clear, we walk back to our dorm and contemplate why the fuck we just ran away from meeting a housemom. Despite feeling like immature children, we were both just absolutely giddy as if we just dodged a bullet. I can only imagine the degrees of WTF his girlfriend suffered when she discovered that we ditched. She was understandably pretty pissed off. My friend does eventually end up meeting the mom later that day. She's not a Disney villain, turns out, she's just a racist piece of shit. Forbids her daughter from dating him due to being biased against interracial relationships. Just some real evil stepmother shit. To the girlfriend's credit, she didn't dump him immediately. She waited a few weeks and dumped him on Halloween. My theory, though, is that the evil stepmom's powers were strongest that day and she cast a spell. TLDR. Two dumb asses run away from meeting a scary-looking house mom. She casts witchcraft to end a young relationship. Asterisk.